Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is Comics Will Break Your Heart. My name is Jennifer. I am here to tell you today about one of the absolute best comic book series, best graphic novels in the entire medium of comic books and graphic novels. Not only is it the series that got me hooked on comic books, and I know that's true for so many other people, it is one of the absolute essential reads for comic books. Today I want to talk about The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Borrowing a line from The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, the pitch for The Sandman begins with an ominous line, "I will show you terror in a hand full of dust." It's hard to believe that this was Neil Gaiman's first ongoing monthly comic book title, preceded by a few articles, a handful of writings, and another graphic novel, Black Orchid, also published by DC and with collaborator Dave McKean. After a conversation with Vertigo editor Karen Berger, Neil Gaiman was responsible for reimagining an obscure DC character. The first few iterations of the character known as Sandman was a founding member of the Justice Society of America who would use a sleeping gas-filled gun to subdue his enemies. Neil Gaiman would give a few references to previous incarnations and would even write them in neatly into the timeline, but this new Sandman was dark, brooding, and sometimes terrifying. He is known by many names: Morpheus, Dream of the Endless, the Prince of Stories, the Master of Dreams. And in the early 20th century, a group of occultists discovered that what they think is a way to capture death, they might use that power to control and for possible world domination. After an intense and precise ritual, they partially succeed, but instead capture the Master of Dreams himself. However, they can only confine him. They can't get any of his power, they can only keep him imprisoned. After 7 decades of captivity, Dream can finally make his escape, only to find that his kingdom is in ruin and his personal objects of power have been lost or stolen. In the first volume, Preludes and Nocturnes, we travel along with Dream as he attempts to collect back his helmet, stone, and magical pouch of sand. This journey not only takes us through hell and back, where we meet the devil himself, but we also meet some familiar faces like John Constantine, Mr. Miracle, Martian Manhunter, and Batman. In later volumes, Dream must confront his family and his past, and even meets real-world figures such as William Shakespeare. We even discover the rest of the Endless: death, despair, desire, delirium, destruction, and destiny. As with any good story about family, these archetypes are deeply flawed and their tales are oftentimes tragic, but it wouldn't be a great story otherwise. When the argument about whether or not comic books are literature, this is the title I bring up to use as the best example that, yes, comic books and graphic novels are just as enriching and engaging as quote-unquote literature. The Sandman series is worthy of all of this praise and more. It's received some of the highest awards given for comic books, graphic novels, science fiction, and fantasy. It's even rumored that when Neil Gaiman and illustrator Charles Vess received the World Fantasy Award for Best Short Story for the 19th issue, A Midsummer Night's Dream, the eligibility requirements were changed so that comic books couldn't win in that category anymore. In 1991, it was the first comic book to win the award, but the only evidence that the requirements to be nominated and win have changed is that no other single-issue comic book has won again. This series is 75 issues long, enough to collect 10 volumes. The storytelling is nothing short of magical, but it wouldn't be the powerhouse of a series without some of these talented artists and collaborators, such as Dave McKean, P. Craig Russell, Jill Thompson, Sam Keith, and Colleen Doran. There have been numerous attempts to adapt the series to film and television. Neil Gaiman has stated, "I'd rather see no Sandman movie than a bad Sandman movie." Although that breaks my heart just a little, I have to agree. I've seen too many of my favorite literary treasures ruined by movie and show adaptations. We may not see the Sandman make it to the big screen anytime soon, but there is plenty of source material and spin-off material to keep us entertained. Like I said, This series is absolutely magical. It's been out since 1988 when it first came out and ran for about 8 years until 96. And even though it's been about 25 years since the series ended, I can't think of another series that has had the impact that the Sandman has had on the entire comic book and graphic novel medium as a whole. If you want to go ahead and purchase Sandman and start reading it, you can find a link below to find your local comic book store where you can purchase it from, or you can go to bookshop.org. When you purchase from bookshop.org, the money actually goes directly to local comic book stores and bookstores instead of bigger chains. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to further help out Comics Will Break Your Heart, you can find me on Patreon, where you can help curate my personal pull list, get personalized recommendations, and more. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.